On this Mother's Day, we welcome you to Ontario. The Toronto Arrows continue their homestand, winners of their last 4 in a row now. The hottest team in Major League Rugby getting in their way on this Sunday afternoon. The Warriors of Utah trying to become the first team in the past month to take points out of Canada. Hi everyone, Lincoln Rose along with Kit McConaughey. Happy Mother's Day everyone tuning in. As Kit, Toronto, this is a team that showed up finally for the backstretch, last 8 games of the year, all at home, a 500 team, but they have caught fire here in their backyard.
Absolutely outstanding. Winners of their last 4. They're going to be looking to make it a league-leading 5 in a row. A tough test on the road for Utah today.
This is the 3rd match in 8 days for the Arrows, with a little quirk in the scheduling, making up a game against Austin back on Thursday. Let's take a look at the table. When we left Thursday night, the Arrows were above that cutoff line. They can climb again. A win with 4 points, even a bonus point. Combine the 2, they'd be even happier. They'd be among the top 3 teams once again in the league right now, just outside of the top 4. But right now, the destiny is within their own hands.
It is indeed. It is win and get in for Toronto. They need the victory to get into that top 4 in playoff position.
Take a look at your keys to this matchup for the home side as we remind you what has already happened this weekend. That was back on Thursday, the win over Austin, and then a couple of playoff matchups, potentially New Orleans, San Diego. The Legion needed that win. Those 2 teams will meet again on the finale. New York and Seattle, a big clash with the defending champs winning. But as for this matchup here for Toronto, what needs to happen in the 80 minutes today?
For the Arrows, it's all about possession. They are at their best when they have the ball in hand. They try to play patiently and don't force things and play clean. There's far too many miscues in that victory over Austin, particularly handling errors. They can't do that against Utah. Energy for 80. You mentioned their 3rd match in 8 days. They're going to have to play well for the entire match to get a win today.
As for the Warriors, they're trying to bounce back from that 64-22 defeat at Glendale.
In Utah, they need to get out to a quick start. It is about speed, forcing Toronto to play a fast game they don't want to in the scrum. Utah has the scrummaging power to dominate the Arrows. They're going to have to take advantage and pressure. Put the Arrows under pressure, force them into handling errors, and get the turnovers.
Well, for Chris Silverthorne, he had been strategically approaching these 3 games in 8 days with tinkering around with the lineup, showing off the depth. Today, it's pretty much full force, full speed ahead. The captain back in at fly half, Sam Malcolm.
And it does start with the fly half Malcolm. He was 100% off the tee in that victory over the Legion last week. 3 for 3 on conversions, 2 penalty kicks for 13 points. He is the guy to keep an eye on, certainly putting boot to ball.
And of course, when you look at the Warriors, all of their opportunities rest on the shoulders of Mr. Moore.
Yeah, the USA Eagle, one of the few bright spots in that loss to Glendale. He had 104 meters gained on 10 carries, added 13 tackles. He's going to have a big game today.
The Sioux Falls native trying to get the Warriors a full 4 points or more here in Toronto, where the Arrows have been a tough out, winners of their last 4. The best winning streak still underway here in Major League Rugby. We are underway on this Mother's Day when you rejoin us. All right, we can have Pat Parfrey come back if you want. On this Mother's Day, we welcome you to Ontario. The Toronto Arrows continue their homestand, winners of their last 4 in a row now. The hottest team in Major League Rugby getting in their way on this Sunday afternoon. The Warriors of Utah trying to become the first team in the past month to take points out of Canada. Hi everyone, Lincoln Rose along with Kit McConaughey. Happy Mother's Day everyone tuning in. As Kit, Toronto, this is a team that showed up finally for the backstretch, last 8 games of the year, all at home, a 500 team, but they have caught fire here in their backyard.
Absolutely outstanding. Winners of their last 4. They're going to be looking to make it a league-leading 5 in a row. A tough test on the road for Utah today.
This is the 3rd match in 8 days for the Arrows, with a little quirk in the scheduling, making up a game against Austin back on Thursday. Let's take a look at the table. When we left Thursday night, the Arrows were above that cutoff line. They can climb again. A win with 4 points, even a bonus point. Combine the 2, they'd be even happier. They'd be among the top 3 teams once again in the league right now, just outside of the top 4, but right now the destiny is within their own hands.
It is indeed. It is win and get in for Toronto. They need the victory to get into that top 4 and playoff position.
Take a look at your keys to this matchup for the home side as we remind you what has already happened this weekend. That was back on Thursday, the win over Austin. And then a couple of playoff matchups, potentially New Orleans, San Diego. The Legion needed that win. Those two teams will meet again on the finale. New York and Seattle, a big clash with the defending champs winning. But as for this matchup here for Toronto, what needs to happen in the 80 minutes today?
For the Arrows, it's all about possession. They are at their best when they have the ball in hand. They try to play patiently and don't force things and play clean. There's far too many miscues in that victory over Austin, particularly handling errors. They can't do that against Utah. And energy for 80. You mentioned their third match in 8 days. They're going to have to play well for the entire match to get a win today.
As for the Warriors, they're trying to bounce back from that 64-22 defeat at Glendale.
In Utah, they need to get out to a quick start. It is about speed, forcing Toronto to play a fast game they don't want to in the scrum. Utah has the scrummaging power to dominate the Arrows. They're going to have to take advantage and pressure. Put the Arrows under pressure, force them into handling errors, and get the turnovers.
Well, for Chris Silverthorne, he had been strategically approaching these 3 games in 8 days with tinkering around with the lineup, showing off the depth. Today, it's pretty much full force, full speed ahead. The captain back in at fly half, Sam Malcolm.
And it does start with the fly half Malcolm. He was 100% off the tee in that victory over the Legion last week. 3 for 3 on conversions, 2 penalty kicks for 13 points. He is the guy to keep an eye on, certainly putting boot to ball.
And, of course, when you look at the Warriors, all of their opportunities rest on the shoulders of Mr. Moore.
Yeah, the USA Eagle, one of the few bright spots in that loss to Glendale. He had 104 meters gain on 10 carries, added 13 tackles. He's going to have a big game today.
The Sioux Falls native trying to get the Warriors a full 4 points or more here in Toronto, where the Arrows have been a tough out, winners of their last 4. The best winning streak still underway here in Major League Rugby. We are underway on this Mother's Day when you rejoin us.
I was working at the golf course yesterday. One of the members was talking. They're like, "Yeah, we're going down." So I was like, "If you don't mind me asking, like, how much for tickets, right?" $230 to sit up. Like, he's like, I'm not like standing. He's like, I'm not super high up, but like I'm in the last like section. I'm like, okay, I'll just watch that home.
That's, yeah.
$230.
I'd rather watch it at home. I'd rather watch it at home. We're spending $500 on tickets to go. That's fucked. In this economy?
Well, dude, if he's got enough money to have a club link membership here, then I'm not surprised the amount of money they get to blow on other things too, right? Like, I could say I spent, I think, about $250 on a concert ticket, but that was for the hip. You're just like, my dude here has got some sunglasses on. It's pretty sunny out though. Where? Right here in the black raincoat. I think he's not playing right here.
Oh, yeah.
Style play.
Look at all the haircuts, man. These haircuts are wild.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Lamport Stadium and Toronto Arrows Rugby. I'm Ron Malone. Today your Arrows host the Utah Warriors.
This is like the Blue Jay guy.
Fans are sponsor Honda celebrating their 50th anniversary here in Canada.
But I'm like, the Jays are playing now. There's no chance.
Yeah, the Jays
No
are
chance you
playing.
can be this guy.
2019 Honda Civic Sedan Touring. To play now.
It does sound like him.
There's like when he says like names and stuff, the starting lineups and stuff.
Yeah, why is there no one here? It's gonna kill someone.
It's gonna kill me.
Fans, keep in mind, visit TorontoArrows.com to purchase your tickets to the May 26th game against the Glendale Raptors. 2 p.m. start time right here at Lamport Stadium. Your Arrows' next home game, May 26th, 2 p.m. against the Glendale Raptors. For your Toronto Arrows merchandise, visit the rugbyshop.com online or here on site, rugbyshop.com. Arrow fans, be sure to head over to Williams Landing following the game for our after party. Hang out with your favorite players, listen to a live DJ, and win a team autographed Arrows jersey. The first 50 fans will receive a welcome drink with a proof of your game ticket. Williams Landing is the official post-game party for your Toronto Arrows. And we'd like to thank our sponsors today, including Honda Canada, Waypoint Investment Partners, The Landing Restaurant Group, Landera Fishing, The Globe and Mail, X-Blades, and Louisiana Tourism.
What are you using the white?
I don't have anything else.
Our lens looks like shit.
No, I know, but mine does too. I got all these smudges, but it's not showing up. I'm not gonna touch it. Like, we can't do anything during the game and wipe it, right? So. Even when you zoom in too, though, doesn't really see.
On this Mother's Day, we welcome you to Ontario. The Toronto Arrows continue their homestand, winners of their last 4 in a row now. The hottest team in Major League Rugby getting in their way on this Sunday afternoon. The Warriors of Utah trying to become the first team in the past month to take points out of Canada. Hi everyone, Lincoln Rose along with Kit McConaughey. Happy Mother's Day everyone tuning in. As Kit, Toronto, this is a team that showed up finally for the backstretch, last 8 games of the year, all at home, a 500 team, but they have caught fire here in their backyard.
Absolutely outstanding. Winners of their last 4. They're going to be looking to make it a league-leading 5 in a row. A tough test on the road for Utah today.
This is the 3rd match in 8 days for the Arrows, with a little quirk in the scheduling, making up a game against Austin back on Thursday. Let's take a look at the table. When we left Thursday night, the Arrows were above that cutoff line. They can climb again. A win with 4 points, even a bonus point. Combine the 2, they'd be even happier. They'd be among the top 3 teams once again in the league right now, just outside of the top 4. But right now, the destiny is within their own hands.
It is indeed. It is win and get in for Toronto. They need the victory to get into that top 4 in playoff position.
Take a look at your keys to this matchup for the home side as we remind you what has already happened this weekend. That was back on Thursday, the win over Austin. And then a couple of playoff matchups, potentially New Orleans, San Diego. The Legion needed that win. Those 2 teams will meet again on the finale. New York and Seattle, a big clash with the defending champs winning. But as for this matchup here for Toronto, what needs to happen in the 80 minutes today?
For the Arrows, it's all about possession. They are at their best when they have the ball in hand. They try to play patiently and don't force things and play clean. There's far too many miscues in that victory over Austin, particularly handling errors. They can't do that against Utah. And energy for 80. You mentioned their 3rd match in 8 days. They're going to have to play well for the entire match to get a win today.
As for the Warriors, they're trying to bounce back from that 64-22 defeat at Glendale.
In Utah, they need to get out to a quick start. It is about speed, forcing Toronto to play a fast game they don't want to in the scrum. Utah has the scrummaging power to dominate the Arrows. They're going to have to take advantage and pressure. Put the Arrows under pressure, force them into handling errors, and get the turnovers.
Well, for Chris Silverthorne, he had been strategically approaching these 3 games in 8 days with tinkering around with the lineup, showing off the depth. Today, it's pretty much full force, full speed ahead. The captain back in at fly half, Sam Malcolm.
And it does start with the fly half Malcolm. He was 100% off the tee in that victory over the Legion last week. 3 for 3 on conversions, 2 penalty kicks for 13 points. He is the guy to keep an eye on, certainly putting boot to ball.
And of course, when you look at the Warriors, all of their opportunities rest on the shoulders of Mr. Moore.
Yeah, the USA Eagle, one of the few bright spots in that loss to Glendale. He had 104 meters gain on 10 carries, added 13 tackles. He's going to have a big game today.
The Sioux Falls native trying to get the Warriors a full 4 points or more here in Toronto, where the Arrows have been a tough out, winners of their last 4. The best winning streak still underway here in Major League Rugby. We are underway on this Mother's Day when you rejoin us. Back at Lamport Stadium for this clash in Major League Rugby. Warriors come to town for their lone venture north of the border. Toronto Arrows, winners of their past 4, playing now their 6th home matchup on the year. Take a look at your starting lineups. First up, Director of Rugby for the Arrows, Chris Silverthorne, and finally he's able to flex basically the full muscle of this Arrows club.
Only 3 starters returned from Thursday's victory over Austin. Should have some fresh legs, and they're going to need them against Utah.
And of course, across the way for the Warriors, Al Daniels only making 2 changes from that loss against Glendale. The missile is back among the backs at center. And of course, up there at the number 8 spot, Arthur Burgo in for John Cullen.
Yeah, fantastic backs with Fetsvani Colo, Don Potty at 11 and 15, and joining the missile on that back line for the Warriors.
Well, we were talking about these 3 matches in 8 days. More on that. Sarah Davis with just what great depth, the great luxury these Arrows have. Sarah?
Hey guys, sorry, it's loud and windy down here on the field. As you can see, we're dealing with the elements today, but you mentioned the depth of the Arrows, having played now. This will be their third game in 8 days, and I spoke with GM Mark Winokur ahead of today's game. He said before they even started the season, building this roster, the depth was a big focus for them because they knew they were going to lose 12 players to the America's Rugby Championship through February and March. And of course, they couldn't have predicted that they would have to play this postponed game on Thursday. So they've really been relying on this depth of the team. They've had every single player on the roster playing at least 3 games this season. And also, you know, rest and recovery, a big part of this week. I spoke with Spencer Jones as well. He said the guys have been doing yoga in addition to all the other remedies to help them rest up through this hard week on the body.
Sarah, thank you. You've never experienced yoga until you're surrounded by a bunch of props and hookers. It is a good time. And of course, Anthony Woodthorpe, our man in the middle in pink, presiding over today. And we've grown accustomed now here in Canada to the presentation of the ball. It is the lack of traffic right there at the midfield stripe that has impressed me consistently here in Canada. Again, we are back at Lamport after York on Thursday. Lamport is where we were last Sunday for the victory for the Arrows against San Diego. As we are just about ready to go, you and I spoke to Mark Winokur a little bit earlier this month, and looking ahead to this stretch of all these games. Obviously, the Arrows are built as well as just about anybody in MLR in terms of creating a pipeline. These academies becoming a more and more priority. They have such great relationships with some clubs, including where many of these players came from, the Blues previously. But I asked him if there was any chance Chris Silverthorne might ask him to be wearing the number 16 as the backup hooker. He said, we're not going to have to get to that point.
He said if that's the case, we're in a lot of trouble.
The Warriors trying to find an early advantage. They led Glendale early in that contest before the Raptors went on a run. Again, as this ball secured by Reeves.
A tough loss against Glendale. A lot of points scored by the Raptors. One thing about Utah, they can see points, but they can score them as well.
Again, constant mist falling here at Lamport. Fans battling the elements, as are athletes today.
Handling will be an issue. You can already see that early on. Have to secure the ball. Toronto just too many mishandles against Austin. Those handling errors really hurt them. They were able to come away with the victory, but they won't have that luxury against a good Utah side.
It's an Arrows team that has not conceded more than 21 points in this 4-match winning streak. Gave up 7 to Seattle, 19 to San Diego, 13 to Austin the other day. Can the Warriors find early points, as this one will find its way into touch?
And for Toronto, the formula, just keep doing what you've been doing. Be patient, keep possession. They were able to starve Austin of possession. They kept the elite without the ball. And obviously difficult to put points on the board when you don't have it. They're going to be looking to do the same against Utah.
Andrew Quatrin back in the lineup today, among those who were able to get some rest during this stretch. Strategic planning with the roster for the Arrows.
Quatrin joining Morgan Mitchell, the 2 starters on that front row. They're joined by Pat Leinhoff, the man from Quebec. It's his first start of the season in place of Rob Brower in the 1 shirt.
Vandenberg found a gift here on Mother's Day, even though he's a Halloween baby. Trying to dump one down to meet her out. Warriors trying to land the opening blow here north of the border. Will that arm be raised? One more phase perhaps. Milazzo wins the battle, lowering his shoulder. And able to finally dot it down, I believe, is Luke Campbell, who got the final opportunity to punch it in for the Warriors.
Great stuff there. Utah able to strike first, just 2 minutes in. The 5-pointer, the big boys up front, the South African Vandenberg, Lever McClellan, all doing yeoman's work on the try line and rewarded with 5.
Toronto struggled defensively really to ever get their footing. Warriors hit the ground running here in Toronto.
Good, right. Next to the post.
Yeah, again, Warriors have had some nice offensive showings this year.
A little bit. A bit chilly and the rain's coming in.
Tim O'Malley, the Kiwi. No trouble, able to slide it through, completes the conversion, and Utah a quick 7-0 lead.
Got to build some confidence here One more opportunity after this one. That's Lance Williams trying to burrow his way in, able to free it up for Burgo.
Yeah, the Brazilian, Arthur Burgo, comes across. Talk about all the Americans and Canadians playing in Major League Rugby, a large South American contingent as well. Brazil, an up-and-coming country in World Rugby. Burgo able to put his side on.
And Burgo in for Cullen today. It is...
Hold in front, Red.
Again, the conversion was good. It is 7-0 Utah.
Fall backward.
Ahead of Toronto at the moment. Now the Arrows with an opportunity.
Arrows back with that combination that's so potent at 9 and 10. McKenzie and Malcolm.
Good turnover.
Fly half and scrum half, so good together. But Toronto not off to a good start. Turn it over.
Lance Williams with the ball. Brian Hightower had a nice feature about him on Major League Rugby's website. The special needs teacher when he's not out battling with the boys.
And what a story he is. What a man. A former linebacker at the University of Hawaii, special needs preschool teacher. He's one of those guys that you see him off the pitch, one of the nicest gentlemen you will ever meet on the pitch, an absolute beast.
Trying to string it out wide. Arrows able to force it into touch. As Utah, with less luck this time around, finding their way to the try zone.
Yeah, we really need
So another line out here for the Arrows. You see Andrew Quantren wanting the towel for this ball. He's joined up front, including by Paddy Lynott, who earns his first start, the 23-year-old out of Quebec, along with the Kiwi Morgan Mitchell.
You see Milazzo there, one of the best line-out men in Major League Rugby. The flanker wearing number 7, but takes it short, batted around, and Utah comes away with it.
Knock on by White, scrum advantage.
And so you heard the advantage called, and now, well, mindful of the advantage, Tom Van Horn knows that instead of sprinting and exhausting himself for 40 meters, this one's going back for Utah.
Easy knock-on call there, in and out of the hands of Burgo. The big Brazilian just couldn't secure it. That is going to be an issue all match long. You have to imagine with the conditions. Utah, the fresh legs, they're going to use the big boys up front, those forwards to pound away. And now the scrum first of the match. You really think this is where the Warriors have a big advantage.
Johnny Ika and the Warriors with this scrum.
Very good Tongan scrum half, Ika. Great job controlling things.
Reeves. Across the midway stripe.
O'Malley lowering the boom. This is what Utah needs, powerful inside running.
Can they find insurance here early on? Back to the fullback, Don Ponte.
And Ponte's so good, but this may not be one of his matches just with the conditions that he's able to get free.
Well, the pitch a little bit narrower may not favor the men with speed quite as much, trying to get out wide. And again, right now, that is Jeremy Lieber down. The Australian.
And the former ACT Brumbies man, won a U16 national championship with the Australians, and All-American at Lindenwood University.
And one of the many programs here in the States that we've seen a lot of MLR talent emerge from.
Lindenwood is an absolute factory. Big Franco Vandenberg heading ahead. Looks like he may have just caught his teammate there with studs on the boot.
So Jeremy's still down on a knee.
We mentioned the depth of this Toronto team being tested and their recovery, doing yoga, just about everything they can this week to get back to close to 100% for this match. Playing 2 matches in a week is difficult, but playing 3 in 8 days, that is something else.
Yeah, again, it's where, again, we've talked about it now several times early on, the depth of Toronto, well played by Chris Silverthorne with the way he's managed the minutes.
One thing that Toronto does have in their favor, playing 3 matches in a week, is so many of these guys who've come through the Ontario Blues, who played provincial rugby in Canada. They played in that Canadian Rugby Championship where they are at times playing 2 and 3 matches in a week. So it's something they've done previously.
Wrapping the left arm of Jeremy. before they resume. And obviously the Warriors not bothered by these, quote, elements with the mist coming down. You remember when their entire pitch was white for a couple weeks with all that snow, and entertaining match to take in as a fan, but a tough one to battle through as a competitor.
Yeah, rugby players, the most complete athletes you will find anywhere. Their aerobic and anaerobic capacity is just off the charts, and rare that the elements are an issue. They would much prefer this than it be close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Most of the teams are going to miss out on those late trips to Texas like they had last year.
I don't think they're going to miss those trips.
In the schedule, doubling in length this year. That meant an earlier start with some cooler temperatures. It's one reason why Toronto played its first 8 matches on the road. But reaping the benefits now into Williams. Ball is formed here for Utah. Already up by a try and a conversion.
Played away.
O'Malley making meters the hard way so far. He's had 2 big carries.
The 24-year-old trying to bully his way forward. Now it's Varnicolo.
Fantastic work from Utah, just burying ahead for a meter at a time. Almost lost it, did the Warriors.
And they tried to go back to Lieber. Again, he was the man whose arm, that left arm, is struggling with, and that's a tough target to fire a ball into.
It is indeed, especially in such close proximity. You don't know if he has full use of that left arm. Just couldn't come up with it cleanly.
And his replacement will likely be Alex Tucci if needed.
Like what you're seeing, though, from Williams, Burgo, Elkington, the 6, 7, and 8, all getting good touches inside.
And we may be seeing Tucci a little bit earlier than planned here for Utah.
You lost it. You managed to recover it. But just be careful, okay?
Well, the Warriors are threatening to go up multiple scores here early on. This would be a great bounce-back coup for them on the road, where Toronto... Look, Toronto is 4-1 at home. That one loss to New Orleans, if this was a 78-minute game, all of a sudden, we're talking about a team that's perfect at home. Instead, Nola Gold finds that 35-31 win in the final moments of that matchup.
A huge victory for the visitors from the Big Easy. They're able to come away with it in the last 90 seconds, and that was a crushing defeat for Toronto. That being said, they bounced back impressively, 4 wins in a row here at home.
No personnel change made up front for the Warriors. Scrum here for Jamie McKenzie, the Canadian Nationals, with his 17 caps.
The former Balmy Beach man. He's done a great job. He and Andrew Ferguson both as a scrum half.
Quickly swallowed up by Williams.
Smart now.
Toronto just needs more of the ball. So far, it has all been in possession of the men in red.
And they will angle this one. Kiwi to touch.
Malcolm's so good. He can basically put it wherever he wants. Toronto able to switch field position a bit, relieve some of the pressure. A miscue on their first line out. We'll see if they can clean things up here.
Just 22 years old out of Holland Landing, Ontario. Andrew Quatrin back in the lineup today. Of course, his backup again, Stephen Ng, who was a hero last weekend. Arrows down by 7 here early on after the Burgo try and the conversion from O'Malley.
Warriors swarming the ball right now. A great line defensively. Just getting red shirts to it very quickly. And this is good from Toronto. Little box kick over the top, but no one there to chase.
The missile. You hear them calling for the missile to free that ball up. Gets it to Ika.
And they want to miss Ligalu to get that one out a bit quicker.
Matt Jensen, Eagle number 506, your 2-time national champion in his time at BYU. You know, we talk about the Blues and their relationship with the Arrows. How about those Utes and Cougars in almost a feeder squad at the collegiate level for the Warriors to pull from. A nice luxury for them. And I know Alf Daniels is very optimistic about the future here for the Warriors.
As he well should be. A great history of rugby in the state of Utah for a long time. You mentioned the collegiate ranks of BYU and the University of Utah both. A lot of talent coming out of the Beehive State.
And failing
to
release. Well, Alf Daniels, even in his most recent letter to the fans, pointing out some great things on the horizon. Obviously, the Junior Warriors program, the Warriors Rugby Academy, and the Warriors Selects, a lot of ways to identify talent, promote the sport within the community.
And ultimately, that's what's going to make you successful. Having those academies, the homegrown talent. As Major League Rugby grows, the player pool of U.S. and Canadian rugby shrinks. These teams having to look further afield. But if you're able to produce your own talent, that is the ticket for long-term success.
Schools around the area are no stranger to seeing a Warrior step into the classroom. And it's not always just sharing tips about rugby, but other life skills as well. Quatrin trying to help guide the Arrows, looking for the line-out steal here. And this is going to come back.
Stolen away, but between the legs of Ika.
Knock-on called.
Take another look. Great work from Utah. Johnny Ika, generally so sure-handed.
So the knock-on called on Utah. That ball slightly went forward before retreating back on the hop. McKenzie with another scrum here.
Utah had the opportunity to extend their lead, could not do so. Now Toronto finally starting to find their footing offensively. Can they find the try to tie things up?
In many of the Arrows in this scrum we did not see against Austin. Their last outing was right here at Lamport in that win against San Diego. That was following their convincing win against Seattle. These Arrows have started to really click when it's mattered the most.
They have indeed. So much of that they attribute to that 8-game road trip to start things off. You have to get to know each other. None of the front rowers saw action against Austin. Shepard came on as a substitute late in the match.
Crouch. Bind.
And you see Morgan Mitchell asking for assistance there.
Backwards on Fred.
Oh, misfeed. And they take advantage of the wing. It'll slip through the hands of Vanicola.
That's so good in space. Just looking for a sliver. Able to get through that Arrows line.
Trying to turn the field around here. Still in play. But the feed out of bounds for Gaston Mieres.
Uruguayan Gaston Mieres, Toronto's fullback, very fortunate as he was unable to come up with that cleanly.
Yeah, this isn't soccer where you just have to keep the ball inside the line.
Misligalu tried to put a boot to it wisely. If he would have been able to kick that one on, he may well have been off to the races.
Yeah, I felt you guys went across the mark.
This is where Utah really needs to exert their dominance. They have the fresh legs, think they have an advantage in the scrum, and it's not just about Vandenberg, Lever, McClellan, Luhila, Jensen. Those flankers have to get involved as well.
Tongan, Johnny. Another handling miscue. That time it's Dutois. Again, one of the men we did not see against San Diego, a late scratch, Giuseppe Dutois. Great to see that he is healthy to compete again for the Arrows.
Knock-on starting to mount for both of these teams.
As they'll swing Sheridan down to the pitch.
Sheridan, haven't seen him in a few weeks. Good to see him back in the starting 15 for the Arrows.
Doesn't get any easier for the Arrows after today. As Glendale and New York are up next, it'll continue to be a battle for those 4 playoff spots.
At this point, just 1 point out of playoff contention. Toronto knows that it's must win. You have to assume the teams that are in the top 4 will continue winning. You have your own fate in your hands, and that's all you can ever ask for.
As Reeves will put a boot to it. Fly half sends it back in touch. So Toronto in the opening moments of this match just able to skate their way towards the try zone and ultimately punch it in with Burgo. Conversion, of course, was good, but since then, some handling miscues. A Toronto defense that has stiffened up. And we have yet to see our second score emerge its head. Paddy Lynott again gets his first start. Little code with Quatrin.
Lineouts have not been kind to Toronto. This one almost stolen away. Utah's done a great job in the set piece thus far.
Off the boot of McKenzie. Sky high into the mist. As the missile able to squeeze it in, the former Seawolf.
A good take from Jeremy Misiligalu. Sheridan there trying to knock it away, able to come up with it. Knock on. Something that I have a feeling that's going to be a constant for both sides in the 80 minutes of this one.
Just on the plus side of the pitch here for McKenzie and the Arrows scrum.
Crouch! Bind! Set!
So far, Toronto's scrum holding its own. They need to improve the set piece, but the scrum doing a good job. And there you see it. Great work from the men up front. Give them credit. Lynott, Quatrin, Mitchell, Shepard, Van Horn, all a part of that.
Well, Franco Vandenberg gets caught underneath this. You see him put that arm down, trying to support himself, but a lot of the weight of the scrum seemed to fall on him. Good to see him back up.
Vandenberg, such an impressive resume, the junior Springbok. Remember that 2016 World Rugby Under-20 national, or should say World Championship side.
Great opportunity, perhaps the best of the match so far for the Arrows here.
And this is the deepest Toronto has been in Utah territory thus far.
Fred, come up to the line.
They have to take advantage. See what they have here in the line out. They need to improve things.
Can the Warriors get another steal?
Uncontested line out.
Ball is formed as the Warriors would hope, but it's Utah that gets the initial push. Can they sustain?
Same move. Advantage.
Now the Arrows playing with some house money on the advantage.
Still play penalty advantage.
Will they make a gamble here? Moonlight.
One collapse.
And they'll bring it back.
Still part of the mall, so it's still in the mall.
Toronto, as you said, knew they were playing with the advantage, and they were fortunate they were. The firefighter, John Moonlight, spills it forward.
One collapse.
And a nice tackle there, Reeves. Represents the Brazilian national team. His wife, Brazilian native, and now representing his new home country at the world level.
It's an Arrows side that would love, again, to collect a try bonus. Certainly the initial 4 points are in question as well today, as Utah with the advantage still here, almost 20 minutes in.
Big for Toronto. They don't want to have to settle for the 3. They want the full 5 and a chance to tie things.
Jeremy Lieber's been a gamer and at hooker for the Warriors with that bum left elbow.
There's one thing about front rowers. They're not coming out unless they have to be dragged off the pitch. Certainly not this early in a match. You say that for everybody, but those forwards, those men on the front row, just a different breed.
Anthony Woodthorpe, our official, chatting with Franco. Arrows looking for their first points. McKenzie dials up to Twan.
Nowhere for Shepard to go. Good work defensively from the Warriors.
McKenzie thought he found a crack, an opening for Toronto, now a meter out.
Beautiful offload.
Going to the big man Mitchell. The bowling ball makes his way in. Morgan Mitchell has Toronto back within a pair.
A big tight head prop, the Kiwi, the former Southland Stags man, Morgan Mitchell, a bowling ball indeed. So tough to bring down.
Yep, agreed, thank you.
Mitchell just in the right place. A good support line, a ball out to him, and there is no way that Vandenberg can take him down one-on-one. Mitchell across, and now a chance for the Arrows to tie things at 7.
He had no desire to try to elude the 7 and 10 pins. He was going right for the number 1 right in front of him.
There's no spin on that throw. He is going right down the middle of the lane.
So a potential tying conversion from Sammy Malcolm, after which should have our first hydration break as a little bit of precipitation continues to fall from the sky. Sammy Malcolm, the captain, back in fly half, as again Mr. Parfrey did a nice job filling in on Thursday. We thought that Parfrey would get today off, but instead a late addition in place of Avery Ordeman at the 23 off the bench. The captain has us even. Well, Utah able to strike in the opening minutes of this one. The Arrows have their answer. It is our first hydration break of the match. The Arrows and Warriors are level here in Ontario at 7. Well, all of Morgan Mitchell's fantasy owners are happy on this Mother's Day as he gets them the try. The conversion good. We are level at 7 apiece. Lincoln Rose, Kip McConico, Sarah Davis with you. Lamport Stadium, you're home the rest of the way of Toronto Arrows Rugby. They've only lost one match. That was their at home. That was their first over at York. And I mentioned that was a heartbreaker against New Orleans, where they themselves almost had a tremendous comeback.
Yeah, going up against what was then the top team in the league. Fell in the final 90 seconds, but ever since it has been all Arrows, and give the home fans a ton of credit. They have amazing support, whether it's at York Alumni Field or here at Lamport. The fans all clad in blue. They are really out giving it all for Toronto.
The last time these two teams got together was in Utah. That was the 64-31 outing for Toronto. We don't expect quite as many fireworks here today.
That was really the game that put Toronto on the front foot. They, as many points as they'd scored all season, it gave them a huge confidence boost.
You talk about that near defeat. Ultimately was a defeat against NOLA, but then prior to that, their loss to New York was 24-21. This is a Toronto team that, frankly, when you look at their past 8 matches, this could easily be an 8-match winning streak right now for the Arrows. Just a couple that have slipped away. And you saw the early personnel change now being made.
So a change at 1, a loose head prop. Angola taking over for Vandenberg. Early change, just 23 minutes in.
Yeah, we saw Franco struggling some there with injury as well. So the Tongan comes in to replace him. Arrows getting the ball back, fresh off their score.
Utah came out, as you might imagine. They were on fire, playing quickly, scored just 2 minutes in.
Spencer Jones eats up a few meters.
Toronto able to answer back. It took him a while, but now this is more of what you want to see from the Arrows. These long possessions going through the phases.
And that ball back into touch.
Red line up.
Handling errors continue, and I think that time Spencer Jones, the outside center, I wasn't quite sure if he saw the support line coming behind him, just threw it away.
That was more miscommunication than anything. Well, let's see the line out here with that left elbow being wrapped.
In the middle, please.
Lieber at it during the opening month of the season.
Some more.
Lineouts have been on point for Utah, both when they've had them and Toronto. They've been able to steal a few away.
The missile, the pride of Seattle. Now to Williams.
Like to see big Lance Williams getting touches, the opportunity to handle.
Yeah, Williams in American football was used to playing defense, one of the top tacklers that those Rainbow Warriors at Hawaii ever had. Of course, in rugby, gets to play both sides of the ball. This one will spill loose.
I like the idea from Reeves there, a little stab kick through, but no one in red able to get to it quickly enough.
That off the fingertips. Able to save it, Campbell.
And one of the new additions to this Arrows roster. He's been very impressive.
If he doesn't squeeze that in, that's a knock on.
The hands now 4 red. All backwards.
Fortunate that one backwards through the fingertips of Tom Van Horn.
Form tackle from Lance Williams, lowering the boom. And the Arrows are headed in the wrong direction. See if they'll put their boot to it. Have to be able to eat up some real estate. That wind is not working with the home side right now.
The wind, the weather, certainly a factor. The elements not making the handling easy for either side.
Yeah, all the line, please. Thank you.
Arthur Burgo coming over, the number 8, recognizing that big tackle made by Lance Williams a moment ago.
That's the kind of tackle that really generates electricity. You're on defense, have somebody like Williams come up, lower the boom, get a little spring in your step, seeing something like that.
Can Utah reclaim an advantage here? And that ball not straight.
Option.
And a miscue for Utah.
Utah had been so good in the line out until then.
The Utah team that went 3-5 last year in the maiden voyage. That was good enough with 22 points to get them into the postseason because of those 10 bonus points in those 8 matches. Remember the final match of the year, either Utah or Austin was going to punch its ticket. Utah with a comeback victory at home against Houston, able to earn their way into that inaugural postseason.
It's been a much more difficult year, too, for both the Warriors and the Elite down in the Lone Star State. High expectations for both of these sides. Utah, it's been up and down. They found form in a few matches, but consistency has really been an issue.
2 of the final 3 matches for Utah will be at home. They'll have San Diego and Houston. And Alf Daniels, we mentioned the optimism, not just because all of the ties to the youth in the area, but you've got a Rugby World Cup winning All-Black Adam Thompson joining the team next year, along with an Olympic gold medalist in Vladimir Ravuvo, part of that 2020 squad, and they'll actually be on hand for those home matches for the fans to get to know.
Yeah, you talk about players with pedigree and a CV. Thompson may have the best of anyone, the former All-Black.
Low kick, trying to get under that wind. Potty.
Had very few opportunities, has Don Potty.
Mentioned the former Utah Ute when he played 7s, leading them to a title. The Arrows will get it back. Short-lived opportunity for Utah.
Self-inflicted wounds continue from both sides.
Oh, a little too subtle there from Shepard.
In conditions like this, just trying to be a bit too fine. More important to send a good pass. Don't worry about the little touch.
And Moore trying to seize the moment there. Williams, no longer the defender, now
Ball's there,
the ball
Tapo's
carrier.
on man.
And the Warriors able to strip it away.
Another turnover.
Oh, opportunity for the missile. Warriors are going to reclaim the lead here. There was a brief advantage. That advantage had been called off for Toronto. Otherwise, that's a moot point on the turnover. But just as it ends, the missile opts to lob an arrow of his own.
And look at Jeremy Misligalu. Reeves with it, lost it. And that one knocked back. The intended target was Sheridan, but Jeremy Misligalu says, I'll take that, thank you very much, and down the other way for 5.
I think he's a Dan Moore fan. He reached back, pulled out a quill.
Think he's been watching the Arrows highlights?
I think so. I think he may be on those highlights now. He's in for Josh Anderson this week, 25-year-old out of Seattle, as the Warriors still have not trailed today. Looking for the additional 2 here on the conversion from Mr. O'Malley.
Back and forth, Utah with the opener, response from Toronto. Now the Warriors back on top, taking advantage of the Toronto handling error.
And again, with the wind, gets a little help from a friend, as Josh Reeves extends that index finger to keep the ball on the tee. But the flags will stay down. And our score 12-7. Another look here.
Jeremy Misligalu, the right place at the right time. An easy try for number 14.
He must have forgotten the launch code for the missile.
I don't think he needed it at that time.
Went with the old school warfare.
O'Malley unable to split the uprights, pushes the conversion to the left.
Uhila. Some confident running from the lock.
Yeah, good to see Sayu Uhila getting involved, and now Utah really looking good.
Warriors looking for more. Gannon more. Bringing them back to the plus sign. You hear the communication out there for Utah.
This is what the Warriors want to do. They want to play quickly, get to the breakdown, get the ball out, put pressure on that Toronto defense, force them to play a quick game that they do not want to.
Damian McKenzie finally back on his feet for Toronto. But the Warriors, it was a graceful run down the pitch for their first score. This time they are just bullying their way down.
This is much better from Utah, just going ahead, taking white jerseys 2 and 3 to bring them down.
Back to Ponte.
No advantage.
The Warriors playing with a short-lived advantage. They'll bring it back.
Toronto's doing a good job defensively, getting numbers out wide. They're stringing things out. They're not giving Utah the corner to get to. Utah's having a lot more success keeping things in sight, using the big boys to bully for tough meters.
And Warriors just missed the conversion.
Shot called.
And they are, in fact, going to bring out the tee.
This is a good decision. After missing the conversion, you're in this kind of situation. Put yourself at 3 to your lead.
That was not a blade of grass. That was a blade of presumably recycled tire.
If they're able to convert this one, it'll put them back up by a try and a conversion. O'Malley also, the important thing is give your captain a chance to get back on the right foot.
On the money. They missed the conversion a moment ago, but they'll pull 3 points right back, and the Warriors doing it that time in bruising fashion.
And no mistake from O'Malley. Great opportunity for him after missing the conversion, able to get his confidence back up, splits the uprights with no trouble. It's the big boys up front doing the work. They're making the tough meters.
Thank you.
Possession certainly slanted towards the side of the team in red.
Again, they entrust the missile to haul in the kick.
Take him back, hold in front. 8. Hold. Thank you.
Arrows almost able to charge that one down. Mieres.
Illegal counter.
Still plenty of time remaining in the half. Toronto needs to get something going.
Box kick. Box kick.
That one forward off the boot. Anybody's ball, and at the midfield stripe, it belongs to Tom Van Horn. Kai Lloyd. A rare touch for Mr. Lloyd.
The first time Kai Lloyd has had an opportunity to make a play. And Utah defense quickly there to shut him down.
Stay low. Thank you.
Lloyd playing left wing today.
That back line, Lloyd, Mieres, Sheridan, has had very few touches, as talented as they are, haven't been able to get involved. Lloyd swallowed up again. The Canadian national team, man, nowhere to go.
A lot of congestion out there on that far touchline. Warriors' lone score today, the try from Morgan Mitchell. That tied it up at the time. That ball travels backwards.
Over.
Shepard.
Advantage.
And again, the Arrows can try to gamble here.
That line defensively, just incredible work from Utah. They're getting to the gaps, they're getting there quickly. No room for Toronto. As soon as they receive the pass, there's a Warrior right there to make the tackle.
Trying to break free. Shepard looking for support.
Just as I say that, a great line break from Mike Shepard.
On Ponte, your fullback for a reason there, playing safety. For the moment at least, a try-saving stop as Shepard.
Huge collision. Mitchell spills it forward, but it was advantage for the Arrows.
I think Sayo Hila's about to see our first caution.
And Mitchell worse for wear after that big-time collision. Looks like he caught it up around the eye.
I think he got cut on the cheek from that head.
Those are two very large men colliding. Mitchell, your tight head prop, former Southland Stags, man, he's been through about all of it. He's seen it all, and he is such an impressive man, what he's been able to overcome to continue his career.
And again, I believe Sayo Hila was just issued off to the sin bin for 10 minutes.
Right, let's go, fellas. Chosen. White.
Another offside call issued against him. That was enough for Anthony Woodthorpe.
He had been warned numerous times previous. Finally, referee Mr. Woodthorpe is having enough of it.
Campbell, keep it in. Yep. Down. And sit. You're gonna try. Crouch. Back on me, back. Fine.
Well, the Arrows can't tie it here because that penalty goal a moment ago.
We've lost our binds on the far side. Time.
Toronto, it appears, making a change at scrum half as well, as Andrew Ferguson comes on wearing the number 21 to take over for McKenzie.
Yeah, we saw Jamie go down, pick himself finally up, but I believe that was a situation where Chris Silverthorne had his hand forced. As you see, I believe the only 30-year-old on the Warriors roster. Sayo Hila in the sin bin, but also getting some treatment.
The elder statesman of Utah Warriors rugby. Rob Brower saying 30, that's nothing. You can play for another 6 years, easy. Well, the good news is with Ferguson in as your number 9, not a huge drop-off, as good as he has been. A luxury for the Arrows to have two very capable scrum halves.
Arrows have no desire to split those sticks. They want the 5.
And at this point, here in the final minute or so of the first half, Toronto knows what a try would mean going into the sheds.
It would essentially mark halftime. It would mark the halfway point to a try bonus. Arrows still in the playoff hunt.
Crouch. Fine. Here we go.
Ferguson, now in at scrum half, turned 27 this past week. That ball quickly matriculates through. Arrows playing with an advantage. Can they go ahead and take it the final leg? Extending out, Sheridan able to dot it down, and the Arrows are back within 3 with the conversion pending.
Fantastic work from the scrum. Take full advantage, does Toronto. Ferguson very patient, and then Sheridan, we mentioned, back in the starting lineup for the first time in a few weeks, comes away with the try. Look at Ferguson, just so patient, head up, looking at all of his options. Decides to grab it and over to Sheridan, who's able to get across and down.
Oh, an entertaining back and forth Mother's Day affair here at Major League Rugby. Now it's Giuseppe Dutoit back on T duty. We'll see if he gets any love on Rugby Wrap-Up from Mr. McCarthy and company. On a windy day like this, holding for Sammy Malcolm. And that's going to bend in. Flags are up, and it is a 1-point match here midway through. Well, the Warriors have come to town unintimidated by Toronto's 4-match winning streak, the hottest team in all of Major League Rugby. But while the Warriors were able to strike first again this match, they've seen the Arrows continue to find answers.
And that's what Toronto's been able to do all season long, certainly here at home, winners of their last 4 after the tough home opening loss to New Orleans. You see Malcolm, just the English on it, pins it back in, just how he drew it up. Toronto impressive in their response, got down early, were able to come back to tie.
Can the Arrows find another try here?
Thank you.
Or will they opt for the locker room?
Right now, Malley's penalty goal, the difference giving Utah that 1-point advantage.
And we may be headed to the locker rooms. It is halftime in Toronto. The Warriors looking to upset the Toronto faithful here on Mother's Day. They lead by 1 midway through.
At this time, please focus your attention to the field area, where we have a very special presentation. We'll let the game day staff and some of the Arrows players get set up. Fans, at this time, I'd like to wish all in attendance today a happy Mother's Day and welcome to the field if we can some of the mothers of the Toronto area Arrows for a very special presentation. All mothers of the Arrow players, please make your way to the field area. And for all the moms in the stands, please stand and be recognized as well. Happy Mother's Day to all the Arrows moms and all the mothers in attendance this afternoon. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all you do. Happy
Yeah, I need like paper towel or something.
I go wash my hands.
One more time, let's hear it for all
I go wash my hands with warm water.
in attendance today. Happy Mother's Day.
If you need to go, there's no water down there anyways in the washroom. Had to use sanitizer. Go scoot in there. Warm up. I'm good here. I'm good. Yeah, no, honestly, go.
Today's coverage brought to you by Big T Construction, Intermountain Sports Medicine, and NUI Social. It is halftime here at Lamport in Ontario. The Arrows back within one, but the Warriors have traveled well today. We are midway through with the Arrows again down 15-14. Lincoln Rose, Kit McConical with you. A little bit earlier today, Sarah Davis had a chance to catch up with Pat Parfrey.
Thanks, Lincoln. Yeah, here with Pat Parfrey. And Pat, you just joined the Arrows in March. You were previously with the Canadian national team, and you made your MLR debut 2 weeks ago. Can you take me through how the last couple of weeks have been for you?
Yeah, last couple of weeks have been great. Been training with the team for about a month now, and it's been awesome. We've got a lot of competition. I was lucky enough to get my, debut off the bench against Seattle, and we were able to finish off that win. And then we unluckily had an injury in the centers, so I stepped in there against San Diego, and we got that win as well. We finished it off quite nice, and then on Thursday I was playing at 10, and we got the win against Austin. So we're going on a pretty good roll right now, and we're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, I'm hearing the word win come out of your mouth a lot here. 4 wins in a row. Have you seen a common thread between those wins?
For us, especially since we've had 3 games this past week, we've had to rely on our depth. So we've had people move in and out of the lineup, and players coming off the bench, finishing off games. So really depth, I think, is our biggest thread right now.
Okay, now just to talk about you a little bit personally, you're finishing your PhD in clinical epidemiology. Your father's also a nephrologist, but he's also huge in the Canadian rugby world, having coached the national team about 20 years ago. Just how has he influenced both your studying career and rugby for you?
Well, I guess because he's a massive rugby contributor, I've grown up playing rugby my whole life, so it's been in my blood, I guess you could say, but he's probably more so on the education base. He always is pushing me to finish my education, keep chipping away at this, keep chipping away at that, and he'd probably prefer me to be on the education route instead of going out and hitting people or running with the ball, but he's been keeping me on track on both ends.
Well, from what your teammates have said, you work hard, play hard. Thanks so much, Pat.
Okay, thank you very much.
needle now. Okay.
No needle now.
No needle now. Yeah, that's what I'm doing now too for this game.
Oh my god.
Get those hands.
So my hand and my legs are wet.
Come on, E. You're gonna be a cameraman now.
One of those days that makes you question what you do for a living. Yeah, exactly right, Iggy.
Yeah, sounds okay right now.
Saving Steve West United still. Today's coverage of Major League Rugby brought to you by Cosmos, the Globe and Mail, and Honda. It is a misty Mother's Day in Ontario right now. The Warriors up 15-14 on the road.
Paul would shit bricks seeing your camera like this. I tried to whisper. I'ma go buck wild, boys.
I wet my shot. Nope. Can you come out and play?
Yeah, no halftime anymore.
Well, a good one brewing here in Ontario at Lamport, right in the heart of downtown Toronto. Home fans, though, obviously a little biased cheering on the Arrows. They saw, though, the Warriors strike first. Kit McConaughey as Arthur Burgo able to punch it in.
Just 2 minutes in, the Warriors took the lead courtesy of the 8-man for Utah. Burgo across. O'Malley completed the conversion, but then Toronto in the 21st minute. Morgan Mitchell prop across. Malcolm with the conversion. That tied us at 7.
Oh, a miscue and a missile.
Jeremy Missile-Igalu found a gift, and off to the races went the wing for the Warriors. O'Malley unable to put the conversion through, and it was a 12-7 Utah lead, but then minutes later, O'Malley, the penalty goal, put Utah up 15-7.
Yeah, Warriors opted to go for the tee, and right now that's turning out to be a good choice. Of course, the change at scrum half, Ferguson, as he leads the Arrows to a late score.
Ferguson coming on for McKenzie. Final minute of the first half. Very patient was Andrew Ferguson. The scrum for Toronto. Outside to Sheridan, and Sheridan able to dot it down. Malcolm completed the conversion, and we have a 1-point game at the break. Utah leading 15-14.
It's a 4-match winning streak for the Arrows, and we talk about that. Obviously, it's impressive, but it's also necessary. The Arrows need just about 5 points each and every outing here at home to feel comfortable. This should make them feel a little bit better about their second half opportunities with the depth they now have on the bench, including the Captain Moore, who's waiting in the wings.
You talked about some talent off the bench, certainly for Toronto. Ing, Brower up front. Already seen Ferguson come on. He mentioned Moore Parfrey there as well. John Colin, Joseph Nichols, 2 very talented backs coming off the bench for Utah as well. Expect to see some changes for both teams in the second 40.
Yeah, the Arrows have a captain, but the Warriors have a sergeant with John Colin ready when needed to come in for the second half at some point. Entertaining, just 1 point separates these two sides as we are just about ready to go with the second 40 minutes coming up as players start to slowly emerge out of the locker room. Great to have you with us. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I want to congratulate everyone for once again finishing runner-up for Mother of the Year. I know that my mom, she's shown enough that she loves me. I know she's not tuning in today, but at the same time, very thankful for the saint that she is. Just a wonderful human being.
I can only imagine the number of rugby matches that the mothers from both of these sides have watched throughout their lives when these fully grown men were little, first starting their rugby careers, now on to their professional lives as some of the top rugby players in North America.
There were probably a few rucks and malls with some stuffed animals in the early years that led these moms believe that these guys might one day have a chance to be competing as grown men.
Certainly with siblings.
Just not around the fine china, hopefully. Both sides making their way out. Utah has come up and shown up to play here in Toronto.
Utah missed a chance. They got up early. That try just 2 minutes in. They had the ball deep in Toronto territory. It looked like they were going to be able to add to their lead. They could not. In Toronto, even though it took 19 minutes, they were able to get across to tie things.
This is all in Fahrenheit for our fans tuning in over in Utah. As it feels a little bit better than freezing out.
Well, the temperature's not the issue. It's the precipitation down on the pitch. We've already seen numerous handling errors in the first 40 minutes from both sides. Both are going to have to do a better job securing the ball in the second half.
40 minutes complete, 40 minutes still to go. If you're Toronto and you want to look at a bright spot, well, if not for that miscue where you gift the try to the Missile and Utah, perhaps you have a lead at this point in a low-scoring affair.
Indeed, but that was one of those aforementioned handling errors. Toronto just couldn't hold on to it. Missile-Igalu, he was happy to take it.
Warriors will begin with the ball. Can they sail back down, this time into the wind? They're going to test that wind with a driving boot here.
Wind not taking much off the kick from Josh Reeves.
Luke Campbell, your number 8. Again, an injured Jamie McKenzie out. We saw him being helped off the pitch at halftime. Andrew Ferguson has the keys to the car the rest of the way.
Ferguson did a great job. He was the starting scrum half on Thursday night against Austin. Very effective. Expect nothing less from him. And for Toronto, I want to see more carries from the big men. Let those forwards make meters the hard way. Suck in that Utah defense and then try to spin it out wide to the speed.
Did Quatrin spill that ball forward? It is a knock-on, but it was actually perhaps off of Utah.
Probably rather.
As they're going to treat the eye here of Matt Jensen. 26-year-old out of Scranton, Pennsylvania. Thick resume, everything but Dunder Mifflin.
And you see it here, that one in and out of the hands of Quatrin.
So it will be Utah's scrum coming up.
With the slick ball and the tackling that we've seen from both of these teams. Securing possession, that is going to be a paramount. And you know that is something that both coaching staffs really reiterated to their sides at the break.
And our referee today, Anthony Woodthorpe.
Crouch. Bind. Set. Ready.
Not wasting any time.
Now, good stuff there from Ika. Just saw a hole and took it himself. You don't always have to find a teammate.
Warriors hanging on to the 1-point edge thanks to that penalty goal.
9, stay here. Thank you.
Good box kick over the top. We'll see if the Warriors can get a chase. Beautiful job fielding from Mieres.
And part of that Uruguay influence in Major League Rugby. This is a league that's going to help out the Eagles, but there are other nations taking advantage as well. And failing to free up that ball.
And did not release after being tackled.
No, it's taking the off the feet.
You see Williams there on Campbell. Shepard trying to come in, assist with the ruck.
Just on the line here.
And they're going to go, I believe, for the points here.
Yeah, they will indeed. O'Malley calling for the tee, getting a few words there, maybe as far as which way the wind is going from Reeves. But this is a good decision. You only have a 1-point lead. O'Malley was able to put it through the penalty goal back in the 33rd to put his side up 15-7 at that point. That was before the final Toronto try of the half.
He's 2 for 3 today on kicks overall, 1 for 2 on conversions. Was perfect on his lone 3-point effort. He'll go unassisted here other than that tee. Here that wind starts to pick up right in the face of the Kiwi. See if he can put a dent in some public transportation. Warriors playing their cards right. Now the 4-point edge means Toronto cannot tie it up or take a lead with a penalty of their own.
That was exactly why Utah elected to bring the tee out in that situation. No trouble for O'Malley. Able to split the uprights. Just 4 minutes into the second half, Utah with a 4-point advantage.
That ball still going backwards, finally secured by the fingertips of Elkington.
I haven't seen a lot from our Elkington, the flanker. Very talented. Like to see more touches for number 7 in red.
Hope he and his wife Ivy are getting the right amount of sleep with that newborn.
I'm feeling he may be getting a little more than his wife, certainly on these road trips. He may be one of the few Warriors welcoming that.
Never on the ball.
Moonlight.
The defense continues to be outstanding for Utah. The one thing they've been susceptible to is the line break. We saw one from Shepard in the first half.
Yeah, Sammy Malcolm looked like he almost had an opening, instead a turnover.
First one off his knee, and then on the week after that.
And a tough hop for the Arrows as it'll go back over to Utah.
Just when it looks like Toronto has something going, almost able to break that line.
If that ball hits just a little lower off the shin, that's still fair play.
I'm not sure, but they have the guy in the 10th now, okay? Sorry.
Another look a moment ago as the Warriors getting the ball back.
Angus McClellan there, the man down on the pitch. A tight head prop for Utah. Already seen one change on that front row. Franco Vandenberg came out in the 23rd minute.
Yeah, we've seen some big men pick up some bruises already early today. Angus made his Eagles debut a few years ago against Italy. Former captain at the university level at Davenport.
Here we go.
So Johnny Ika and the Warriors in positive territory here. Warriors with the lone 3 points of the second half. Both teams are halfway to the try bonus. And just could not take advantage. Vainikolo could not cleanly handle it.
That's a beautiful kick out from Reeves. Perfectly weighted right out to Vainikolo, the left wing. So unable to keep it in play, tried to flip it back. Already had a toe on the sideline. That is one that he has to take. He has to take it out of the air. He can't wait for it to bounce. And Reeves just so deft. Beautiful kick. Perfectly weighted.
Big break for Toronto. And the Arrows pretty close to full strength. Mr. Rumball, of course, and Mr. Sonner both with some nagging injuries, not available today.
Considering those are the only two unavailable, this is their third game in 8 days. Impressive, certainly from the training staff and the recovery aspect for Toronto. Not saying they're all 100% because they're far from it, but they're out there. Certainly well in this one, the balance still hanging.
Take him back.
Look to change field position here.
It was taken back. No.
And a miscue from Toronto as this one's going to come all the way back to the point of the kick.
A mistake that Toronto can ill afford to make. Trailing by 4. Utah looking the better side early here in the second half.
And Anthony Woodthorpe tried to advise him. You were brought back inside the 22. And obviously when that ball goes out on the full, on the fly, into touch, and you are not on your own inside the 22, this ball comes back.
Unfortunately, not straight. It's unfortunate. Option scrum.
Woody, very gentle breaking the bad news. I'm sure we have some proud mothers tuning in just for the men in pink.
The officials generally like it when they're able to go through the full 80 without a mention. That is one thing. If you're doing your job correctly as a referee, we're not talking about you a whole lot.
Where do you think Scott Green got all of his hair advice from?
5, 6.
Ferguson feeds the scrum. As again, we saw Mongoloa, an early sub for the Warriors there at prop for Vandenberg.
Right on the line.
Right at the midfield stripe.
Thank you, sir.
Toronto able to relieve some pressure.
I'll get your number.
Utah, much as was the case in the first half after they scored quickly, they haven't been able to add to it. Came back to really be a hindrance in the first half. Toronto came back to tie things up. We'll see if this is another missed opportunity for the Warriors.
Well, the wind can certainly affect kicks. Let's see if it plays any games with the line out.
It's in 5. Line out over.
Perfectly taken. Good work from Moonlight, taking it short.
Boyd able to break a couple of tackles, but not able to elude Lieber.
It's all backwards.
Friendly hop for Toronto.
Tack on 12. Go, go, go. Stay low. Thank you.
We've seen from the way Utah swarms to the ball in mass. If Toronto's able to get through, there's a chance to really carry for meters. So far, that has been only twice by my count they've been able to break the line.
That ball punched out.
No advantage, lost 4.
And so the knock on will put an end to the opportunity there for Toronto. And we're going to see some familiar faces coming off the bench here now for the Arrows.
I wondered how long Toronto would go before making these changes in the second half. They won't go any further as a staple on the front line comes back on. Rob Brower, the oldest man to debut for the Canadian national team, now taking over at the tight head, or the loose head prop, I should say.
Brower sporting that number 17 on the back that usually adorns the number 1.
Crouch.
As Chris Silverthorne recognized an opportunity here in the scrum to try to come up with a stump. By not getting his first start today.
Now Toronto back with that traditional front row we're used to seeing of Brower, Quatrin, and Mitchell.
Second. Yeah, space. Between the bucket hit.
The 2 Ontario natives along with the Kiwi Mitchell.
Crouch.
And Cellini coming on for Van Horn. Cellini will take over in the second row, one of the locks alongside Shepard.
Warriors perhaps a little too tricky. Uhila. Captain Dan Moore on the pitch as well, in for Sheridan.
5, thank you. 7, thank you.
Lloyd looking for the edge. Luke Campbell able to maintain possession here for Toronto. The Arrows have not had a lead today. Winners of their last 4, all coinciding with home matches bouncing between York Stadium and here in downtown at Lamport.
Now the heavy hitters, the big guns, back out on the pitch. Guys like the captain, Moore, Brower.
Looking for the line out and hoping to set up a maul.
Great job from Malcolm putting that one exactly where he wanted to. Toronto is not led. Fantastic opportunity here.
Now with Rob Brower whispering sweet nothings into the ear of Andrew Quatrin.
Line that over, it's in 5. The marble!
Warriors having none of it early on.
Carry away, don't go on the ball.
As they have been all game long, the Warriors defense there.
Well, it's Miley Cyrus's favorite wrecking ball moving forward, and Mitchell within a meter.
And Mitchell just lost it. Williams there.
It's spilled loose. That ball finally into touch.
Mitchell, who came up with the tying try in the first half for Toronto, spinning, doing everything he could. Knocked away into the hands of Lance Williams.
So that's going to bring this ball back out to the 5. Opportunity not completely lost here for Toronto.
Crouch. Set.
Warriors have to be ready for anything here.
And I must say, I've been very impressed with the Toronto scrum. And obviously, the addition of Brower back as a prop makes a huge difference.
Scrum time. Okay, if it goes down again illegally, it'll be out of card.
Okay, what are they? What's that?
Loose head collapse, this last one.
Lucy Cliff?
Yeah, loose head collapse. Yeah.
The caution to the caution. As Tim O'Malley informed, another scrum collapse will cost them a man down.
Saying that Utah Loosehead collapsed that previous scrum.
Oh, sorry. Where's your mark? Set on the mark, please. Thank you.
Opportunity that Toronto cannot let slip through their fingers.
Crouch.
Andrew Ferguson's done a nice job for Jamie McKenzie. Long relief today for the scrum half. Arrows looking for their first lead on the day, and it's a penalty try. The full 7 points for Toronto gives them their first lead today.
Mentioned in the open, there may be an advantage. Thought there would be a big advantage for Utah in the scrum. That has not been the case. And credit pack for Toronto.
Something change at prop for Toronto?
Talk about what it means to have Brower up there along with Quatron and Mitchell.
So the Arrows finally have an advantage here in front of the home crowd.
First lead of the match for Toronto. Utah must respond quickly.
Still over 20 minutes remaining in this one. You see the mindset here for Utah. Lloyd with the wind at his back.
Outside! It's being taken back.
Ferguson over the top, Moonlight closest to it, but not making a real effort to.
Don't go there.
No mistake by Reeves handling that one, though, to his credit. Back to Williams. That familiar 6 on his back.
Hila spills it forward.
Yeah. Never held.
Now having to free it up.
Right now, everything going Toronto's way. You can tell they have the confidence from that penalty try, the momentum on the home side as well.
To imagine right now, you just don't want to outthink yourselves if you're Toronto, as they continue to go through the phases and try to matriculate down the pitch. Gaining optimism with the touch from the captain, Dan Moore. And you have 2 of the league's leading scorers not in the starting lineup today, including Moore. That ball fumbled through the fingers of Spencer Jones. It is a knock-on. And a knock-on in response from the Warriors as well.
So far, haven't seen the heavy legs anticipated from Toronto. The depth of that squad, the rotation.
So Warriors will have the scrum here.
See if we start to see a slowdown in play from the Arrows as we get closer to that 80-minute mark.
And gone is your first try scorer of the day, Morgan Mitchell. In his place, Cole Keith, the 12-time capped Canadian. Turned 22 this past week.
Crouch. Red. Bind.
Arrows had a lot of birthdays as well as a lot of matches this past week. Warriors trailing for the first time.
Handling errors continue.
An advantage to play here for Moonlight and Arrows after the forward knock-on from Utah. Again, this is still the Arrows playing an advantage.
Hottie fortunate to be able to secure that for Utah. Good chase from Toronto.
And I misspoke. Advantage was over when that ball was booted forward.
Good offload from Williams, but Elkington unable to get free.
Williams trying to right the ship. Lloyd. See the effects of the rain coming down. Toronto trailed the entire opening half. It wasn't until a few minutes ago with the penalty try. Of course, that puts them within a try now of a bonus point. The missile looking for a brace. He'll free it up to O'Malley. Ball comes loose.
Oh,
forward.
Missile Igalu had it. Had O'Malley running a good support line. Take a look at Jeremy Missile Igalu, able to get through, breaking tackles. O'Malley right there. That is a pass he has to come up with.
It brings us to our final hydration break. 1 hour complete in Ontario. The Arrows with the edge, up by 3.
No, we're all good, thank you. Difference is they want to get it out and they want to keep it in, so thank you balls in.
All right, sure they both have enough room for their heads on the side, because they're doing a little of this stuff. Yeah.
It is the 6th home game now for Toronto. The past 6 weeks all in Ontario. We mentioned the heartbreaking loss in the final moments against New Orleans, but since then, 4 straight matches. Bonus points as well for Toronto as they are in the playoff conversation. Of course, 4 straight wins doesn't guarantee you a 5th. Utah putting up a fight today.
Oh, they are indeed, and that's exactly what we knew the Warriors would do. A proud team. They've played fantastically. This one is going to go down to the wire.
And again, if we had stretched that out to even some of their final matches on the road, this could be an 8-match win streak for Toronto. A couple of nail-biters that just didn't go their way, including that NOLA loss.
You mentioned the previous match between these two in Utah, and to me, that was really the match that got Toronto going, at least offensively. Scored as many points as they have all season long, and even though they fell the following week at NOLA here at home, it was really the start of something for the Arrows.
Really, the Arrows' only convincing loss where they didn't get the loss bonus. They were shut out by Glendale at the start of March. Glendale, the next team to make their way up here to Canada. That'll be in, again, a couple of weeks.
A very different Arrows side that we see today from that side that lost to the Raptors back in March.
Well, a moment ago, the Warriors were on a run, but a handling miscue allows Toronto to send this one back.
Take him back. Yeah.
That's one thing both of these coaches, certainly the losing side, will point to. The handling errors continue to mount.
Well, a miscue here again.
That's on the line.
If you put the boot into that ball outside your own 22 and it goes out on the full, they're going to bring it all the way back.
On the orange line.
A mistake for Toronto.
Orange line.
Line out here for the Warriors.
These are teams that you can't make as you try to get into the playoffs.
Red, come closer. Get in the middle.
Woody needs the Warriors to give a better indication of how many men they're committing.
Sim 5, line out over.
Stolen away by Toronto.
Shepard.
Hold in front. Hold there. Thank you.
Probably seen too many miscues in the line out today by both sides for this late in the season.
The set pieces, the scrum, Toronto's done a fantastic job, better than anticipated. The lineouts, neither team is going to be pleased with what they've seen in that phase.
There was a built-in excuse the first couple months during the ARC when you're missing some of your key pieces for a lot of these teams, but at this point, everybody should know their role in the men around them.
Well, at times, Toronto, speaking of the Americans Rugby Championship, they were missing 8 and 9 players. That is a huge loss, but that is well behind them, and that actually helped with the depth, as a lot of those guys who would not have seen the starting 15, or let alone the 23, got some playing time during those ARC matches.
And Malcolm with the turnover here on the knock forward. Warriors with the scrum.
Good news is for the Warriors, just a 3-point match. Plenty of time.
Yeah, you're one O'Malley boot away from tying this one up. Warriors do have that one draw this year against Glendale. They're not interested in cutting those 4 points in half, though.
No, they want the try. They want the full points. And for Toronto, it has to be worrisome. You haven't been able to extend this lead to 2 scores.
Please don't lean back again. Get yourself in there.
Anthony Woodthorpe, if I ever had to break bad news to somebody, Woody's my guy.
Crouch.
The most encouraging corrections I have seen.
Set.
Can the Warriors reclaim the lead here in the second half? Burgo had the try early on.
Advantage, Whites 22, never onside.
And now it's Utah that may get a couple bites at the apple here, playing the advantage. Uhila.
Offside against Stan Moore. Could Utah take advantage, find the try?
Still playing penalty advantage.
Looking for a quick hit from Elkington.
No advantage, 22, never onside.
Advantage being played for Utah, and thankfully as Williams lost it, but it will remain Warriors ball.
As this was the beginning of the end of that advantage.
You see Williams stood up and able to knock it away. I believe it was Shepard who had hands on it.
The Warriors trying to position themselves for their next 5-point score.
Just push up.
Sorry, count.
See the slight wind now at the back of Utah.
This is a lineout that Utah needs to come away with.
The Sergeant John Cullen has come on for Burgo.
Some more.
Can he be a difference maker here early on?
Oh, and another former USA Eagle, a La Mirada, California native.
Arrows trying to put together a stand.
Ball tackle now. Tackle ball available.
Where will Utah go with this one? McClellan denied.
McClellan knocked back.
Trying to work with more space. Moore. Cannon Moore eyeing the try zone.
Oh, what a job from Toronto keeping Moore out.
Arrows able to stand him up. How about the Captain O'Malley?
Fall backwards.
The Warriors are heading the wrong way. Vinicolo.
Utah centimeters away from the line. Now they are 5 meters from it.
The Arrows maintain this discipline and maintain their 3-point edge.
What a job on defense from Toronto. Can they keep it up?
Why never onside?
Oh, now a gift for the Warriors, playing an advantage. Again, offside issues for the home side.
Red penalty advantage.
Utah wants 5 points. And they will come back.
18 offside.
Toronto doing a fantastic job defending, but then commits the infraction, the offside.
Well, even when Utah had some wiggle room playing the advantage, the Arrows continue to push them backwards.
Use the line, please.
Best defense I've seen thus far in the match for the Arrows.
Yeah, your hands are in front.
You heard Cole Keith was offside by the matter of his hand.
T comes out to O'Malley. A chance to tie things at 21.
Tim O'Malley trying to make it a brand new ball game. Perfect on penalty tries today. Has missed one conversion. I say penalty tries, forgive me. Penalty goal. Some of these synonyms need to go with penalty attempts.
And we're all even. O'Malley, no trouble. Right between the wickets. And draws the Warriors even, 21 all. And what a final 10 minutes and change we're in store for in this match.
A slight victory perhaps for Toronto there, able to dig in their heels, force the decision to kick.
Always inside.
Warriors can be a spoiler even if they don't claim the full 4 points for the victory. If they deny Toronto
it's a late hit.
Anywhere from 2 to 3 points today.
False, therefore it's on the 15. It's a late charge. 22.
Or the late charge being called.
Thank you.
As Dan Moore was trying to come up with a heroic play.
Moore, the captain, trying to charge it down. Just unable to get there in time.
Where the ball crosses the plane.
Well, Dan Moore should be comfortable here. Downtown Toronto, the former finance major who turned down a pretty comfortable finance career to pursue rugby.
So we'll put White here on the 5. White, use the 5, please. We're right on the 5. White to right on the 5. Red just off. 9, 10.
Warriors just split the sticks a moment ago to tie it up. Brand new ball game here in the final 10 minutes. Still looking to reclaim that lead that slipped away.
The defense continues to stand strong for Toronto. Inspired work from the Arrows.
Dan Moore firing up the troops as they again come up with a stand. They are owning those final 5 meters.
They know it's at stake. They conceded the 3 to tie things up. O'Malley with the penalty goal, but they were happy to do so as opposed to going down had Utah been able to dot one in.
Warriors are mindful, though, that Toronto can be vulnerable here.
No, it's tap backwards.
A fortunate break for Toronto.
Timing. Onside.
Well, a moment ago, possession was a good thing for the Arrows. Now they're determined to find a score. They have no interest in a draw today.
White 2.
Toronto just 1 point out of 4th place. The top 4 make the playoffs. Toronto on the outside by the slightest of margins looking in.
Stephen Engel come on for Andrew Quantrick. It was a week ago, Stephen had that game-winning try against San Diego. Gave them the try bonus along the way. O'Malley still on his feet. Warriors have hit a brick wall when 5 meters out. Can they finally break through?
Warriors, as we saw previously, going the wrong way, being pushed backwards.
They've been settling for kicks here in the second half. Able to erase the 3-point deficit a moment ago.
Third, ball is lifted.
Elkington. Oh, the no-look pass and not made to pay for it.
He's fortunate Cullen was there. He was trying to go back inside a little too much.
There is a knock-on call.
Potty just tried to do a bit too much, a little too fancy.
And John Cullen coming off the bench today. Sergeant John Cullen, a paratrooper in the Utah National Guard. He is suited up for the All-Army Sevens.
About former rugby players, former defensive end at Cal State Fullerton, as well as for the Utes.
It's a dead heat right now on Mother's Day, 21 apiece. In your scrum half, Ferguson came in early off the bench.
Ferguson came on in 38th minute, taking the place of Jamie McKenzie. Ferguson more than capable of very good replacement.
5, 6.
Well, this scrum has been the hero at time here in the second half for Toronto, including that penalty try.
Take him back, 13, wait. 13. You've got to wait, no failure.
Toronto playing field position at this point. Just trying to get out of the danger of being in the shadow of their own goalpost.
Warriors just need to be able to execute here on the lineout.
Utah in no real hurry. They want to keep possession away from Toronto. These two teams, Utah would certainly be more pleased to have this match end in a draw.
Uhila frees it up for Ika.
Hold 7, thank you.
Moore puts the pressure on Utah here. A little coffin corner kick from the captain.
What a job from Moore. Not generally the man you think of as one of those top kickers, but Moore just so versatile, multi-talented.
Just open up, I'll get numbers. Just open up.
Warriors have indicated they'll send 4 men in here on the lineout. That'll be matched by Toronto. Toronto 8-5 now on the year. 2 more home matches after today, but they'll get a little breather till 14 days from today. Those Raptors come to town.
Toronto just worried about finishing this final 5 minutes with a flurry. Hopefully finishing on the right side of the scoreboard.
Thank you. Yeah,
again,
agreed.
Moore.
Keep going.
Will the Arrows be able to punch one in? Mind you, a penalty here would be costly on Utah.
Utah knows that they're in a situation where they cannot commit any penalties. The boot of Malcolm would be very happy to give his side the lead and possibly at this juncture the victory.
Can the Warriors force a handling miscue? One broken tackle, 2-man miss. Spencer Jones. Oh, the Kiwi as effective as Houdini.
Spencer Jones, Toronto's outside center, who's been bottled up for most of this match, comes up the most important of times. A massive try for the Arrows.
Spencer Jones slipping tackles only his mother could manage and embrace.
What a job from Jones. A fantastic run. Utah able to bottle up Toronto. But Jones finally, a great pass, and Jones able to get away by Reeves, no chance. But Jones slides across and in for 5.
Oh, what a second half for Toronto. A lot of it had been about what they had been able to do up the middle. That time, Jones out wide, first man missed, and it was a lot of pressure on Reeves to come up with a try-saving tackle. Tough angle here for Malcolm, but right now a 5-point difference already on the board. This conversion would protect Toronto against a game-winning try for Utah. Flags are up.
What a conversion from Malcolm. As you take another look at the try from Jones, Reeves not nearly enough. The reaction priceless, and he knows that may well be the winner. And if so, that would extend the Arrows' league leading, what would be, just a few minutes from now, a 5-game win streak.
First 8 matches ever in the history of Toronto in Major League Rugby, all on the road. That was their introduction to the league, gaining some airline status along the way.
We spoke about it. It may not have seemed like it at the time, but that was a definite advantage, and also the case for Rugby United New York to have to play those opening matches on the road. That means the back end of your schedule all home loaded. When you're trying to find your way into the top 4, you get to play at home, and Toronto, hats off. They have taken full advantage.
It is not over yet. Warriors are trying conversion away from, again, capturing some points of their own, but they'll cough it up. Advantage over, this will stay with Toronto. But now that clock just melting away.
A line out has been a huge issue in this match for the Warriors. Too many times they've thrown it away. The scrum has not been as dominant as I anticipated it would be for Utah. Handling errors for both sides, but ultimately Toronto's been able to work their way through them.
How much time? A minute, a bit.
Confirming about a minute to go for our competitors. Utah never trailed in the first half. It was a penalty try here in the second half that would have them behind the Arrows briefly, where the Warriors were able to level it at 21. Toronto has just reclaimed that lead.
Advantage over.
Oh, while the Warriors have possession, headed in the wrong way. Valuable seconds taken away.
Taking the 9.
All right, quick decision to make here for Utah. How do they turn this table?
First, they have to figure out a way to get that ball deep in Toronto's end. They have to switch the field, even off the boot of Reeves. That's just going to get him shy of midfield.
No, he wasn't.
See the bench of Toronto sorting their guys, telling them to dig deep.
Thank you very much.
Up to Williams. Utah still with a chance here, but taking some lumps along the way.
Crunching tackle.
No, timing is good. Timing was good.
Cullen upended.
Tackle now, tackle now.
At this point, Toronto just needs to get possession and send it out into touch.
Hey, we gotta work. We gotta work.
What a battle it has been today between Toronto and Utah. The Arrows chasing the Warriors much of this match, but here in crunch time, it's Toronto up by 7. Utah continues to have hope as long as this ball's in play. Arrows not gambling, going for the high percentage stops. Toronto hoping to drag that ball into touch, even if it includes taking a Warrior down as well. And for Mother's Day, the Arrows get their moms 5 points.
Appropriately enough, Sam Malcolm the tackle to end it in the end goal. And what a performance from Toronto. They have now won 5 in a row. 3 matches in the last 8 days.
Spencer Jones' final trip to the tri-zone secures the bonus point as well. We'll be back with final thoughts and a chance to talk to the Arrows.
And don't forget to head on over to Red Rider and for information on their Learn to Dirt Bike program or purchase sessions or news rate of $99. You may also visit jrr.ca for information. Don't forget our next home game, Sunday, May 26th against the Glendale Raptors. Game time right here at Lamport Stadium is set for 2 p.m. Visit TorontoArrows.com for ticket information. Arrows merchandise can be found at rugbyshop.com online or here on site. Also, fans, don't forget to visit. Head on over to the Williams Lane for today's post-game party, after-party, hang out with your favorite players, listen to a live DJ, and win a team autographed Toronto Arrows jersey. The first 50 fans will receive a welcome drink with a proof of today's game ticket. Williams Landing is the official post-game party of your Toronto Arrows. Big thank you to our sponsors, of course, Honda Canada, Waypoint Investment Partners, the Landing Restaurant Group, Langnera Fishing, the Globe and Mail, X-Planes, and Louisiana Tourism. At center field with today's captain, a couple of key conversions, Malcolm Sam. The team has put together a win streak now of 5 games. This roll they're on.
Well, the Arrows only allow Utah to head back home with 1 point for the loss bonus. The captain, Dan Moore, and the Arrows 5 points. It was when Spencer Jones dotted it down. Not just 5 points on the scoreboard, but 5 points on the table for the Arrows. The victory as well as the try bonus. And our man of the match is now with Sarah Davis down on the pitch.
Spencer, a huge win for you guys here now, 5 in a row. Can you tell me how you're able to snag the ball towards the end there and run it in for the game-winning try?
Oh, you know, all the boys just applied pressure, you know, the opportunity came. Everyone ran the right line, a little hole just opened up. Great pass from the 10 and just ended up going through, which is pretty lucky, but happy to get it for sure.
How did the elements play a factor in the way you guys play today?
Oh, normally we play quite an expensive game. And today with all the wind and the rain and stuff, and the ball being real slippery, just had to keep it up in the forwards. You know, the forwards did a hell of a job, just pushing it forward and everything, giving us backs a little bit of room to play with the ball, and you know, it all worked out in the end.
Maurian Mitchell also scored a try today. What is it about the way he plays that he's able to just barrel through his opponents?
Oh, he's just a powerhouse, so there's nothing else other than that. Just give him the ball and let him do his thing, you know, it's awesome. Yeah.
And then, as I mentioned, 5-game winning streak. What do you credit this turnaround to?
Oh, no, I just think all the passion and all the brotherhood that we have, like, it's unreal. Everyone's trying to do well for each other, and like, what's it called? Our depth that we have is unreal. So everyone put 100% in all 3 games, and it's good. It's good to come away with it.
Absolutely, you guys have really been able to rely on that depth. Thanks so much, Spencer. Go warm up. We'll see you back here in 2 weeks.
Awesome. Thank you very much,
guys.
Sarah, thank you. That depth now has Toronto again above the playoff line. They maximized the points again here at home, and mind you, San Diego may be atop at the moment, but they have played one more match than New Orleans. Toronto's going to get next weekend off. We'll see how much can change, but the hunt is very much alive among those top 6 teams for just 4 playoff spots.
Oh, it is indeed. Glendale, Rugby United, New York on the outside looking in, but as you said, those top 6, everybody in the mix for a playoff spot.
Only 2 teams left on the schedule for Toronto. Who are they? Well, Glendale and New York. The playoffs may very well begin 2 weeks from now in Toronto unofficially. Warriors with some highlights, plenty of optimism. May have led more than they trailed today, but it was the Arrows who got the last lap. The fourth and final try from Mr. Jones, the 21-year-old Kiwi. A long way from home, but feels right at home on this Mother's Day. Hope everybody is able to enjoy the rest of their Sunday. For Kit McConico, Sarah Davis, I'm Lincoln Rose. The Arrows with a comeback win extend Major League Rugby's best winning streak to 5.